again. One of the services our fire department offers to our local business community is we offer a program of teaching fire safety and fire extinguisher training. What we do is when they request that we provide the training, we'll send our public education team, we'll send one of our members out to their facility and we'll bring our prop and we will teach them how to use the fire extinguishers. It's good for two different reasons. Obviously, it's good for the business that we provide that service. And secondly, it's good for our guys that we get out, we get to see some of those facilities, and we get to interact with people. When we teach these classes, we strive to make sure that we provide some good information. The easy part is just teaching them how to pull the pin and squeeze the trigger. But we want to make sure we provide and keep them safe, keep them some information to keep them safe and keep us safe. The fire service, we use a lot of acronyms. Make sure it's easy to remember things in stressful situations. So one of the acronyms we use is anytime you encounter a fire situation, we want you to remember RACE, R-A-C-E. First thing you need to do is rescue those in immediate danger. That could be yourself or it could be a victim. And rescuing them from immediate danger doesn't necessarily mean getting them completely out of the facility. You just need to get them out of the room of origin of the fire or get them across double doors or just get them somewhere they're going to be safe for the meantime. Second thing you need to do is sound the alarm. We want to sound the alarm as early in the process as we can, whether that's a pull station, whether it's a radio that you may have in your business, or whether it's simply telling somebody you've got a fire and go sound the alarm or call 911. So rescue those in immediate danger, sound the alarm early in the process. Sounding the alarm early is going to do two different things. Most importantly, hopefully it's going to get people heading towards the exits. We're talking about a broad array of businesses today, but we need to get people heading towards the exits as early as we can. If it's no big deal, we can bring them back in. Secondly, it's going to get us en route. Depending on the business we're talking about, getting us en route is going to be a huge deal, depending on our response time, depending on how big the facility is, how much of a water supply we have to set up, and even how far away from our engines that we're going to have to attack the base of the fire. So sounding that alarm early makes a big difference for us. Fire usually doubles in size about every 60 seconds. So 60 seconds for us is a huge deal. So rescue those in immediate danger, sound the alarm. Next, as you're getting out, as you're rescuing those people, confine the fire. That simply means closing doors, is confining the fire. Obviously, it's going to confine the fire. More importantly, it's going to confine smoke, which is going to create a lot of problems for us. So rescue those in immediate danger, sound the alarm, confine the fire. And next, you need to decide if you're going to extinguish or evacuate. I say listen to your gut instincts. If you look at a small fire and the first thing you say to yourself is, I need to extinguish that fire quickly before it gets any bigger, and you're comfortable doing so, then we want you to extinguish that fire. If you look at that fire and the first thing you say to yourself is, boy, that looks pretty big and I'm not comfortable with that, then go ahead and evacuate. So rescue those in immediate danger, sound the alarm, confine it, and then extinguish or evacuate. After that, what I like people to do is when you start your shift, sometimes you may work, some people work in the same spot every single day. Some people travel to different areas around their facility. They may travel to different sites. So when you begin a shift or begin a work day, just think about something. Identify. I call it the identify phase. First thing you want to do is you want to identify the location of your fire exits. The time to find a fire extinguisher is not when you have a small fire that's getting big rapidly. So you want to know the location of your fire extinguishers. Most of the time, your fire extinguishers will be located near an exit, and they're located near an exit for a specific reason. So if I had a fire over here in this corner, and my exit may have been in that doorway, I'm going to go to that exit, I'll grab my fire extinguisher, I'll turn around, I'll go back to my fire. If for some reason I can't get the fire knocked down, my back is to the exit, and I can still always get out. So you want to make sure your back is always to the exit. You don't ever want to end up with a situation where my exit might be over on this side, my fire is here, I try to put that fire out, and I can't put the fire out. It goes vertical and horizontal, and now I'm stuck with the fire here and my exit over there. So we never want the fire to get between us and our way out. Always keep your back to your exit. That's why most extinguishers are located near an exit. Next thing we want you to do is identify multiple exit. As I just said, you may work in the same spot every single day and be comfortable coming in the same way every single day. May not always be an option. If we have a fire, that way may be cut off. So we need to make sure you know multiple exits so you're comfortable getting out if one way is not available. Some of the businesses we're talking to also have the general community coming in, and they don't know all the exits, and they only may know one exit, and they're looking to you to find out how to get out if things go bad. So that's why you need to make sure you're comfortable knowing multiple exits for yourself, and you can direct others to a safe way out. Next thing we want to talk about, we call target hazards. Target hazards, that's a very broad spectrum depending on what business we're talking about. If you work in an area that has stored flammable chemicals or gases, that's a target hazard. If you work in a warehouse that has pallets of cardboard and paper products that are stacked high, that's going to burn rapidly, that's a target hazard. If you work in a hospital or a nursing home, your target hazard is your clientele, your people. Most of them may not be ambulatory, and so it's going to take a lot of manpower to get them out, and it could take a lot of time to get them out. So those are your target hazards. We want you to identify those for a couple different reasons. One, we want you to know what you're getting yourself into before you go and start to try to put out a fire. If it's a flammable gas or something that's dangerous like that, or a chemical, we want you to know what you're getting yourself into. And then when we show up, you can tell us what we're getting ourselves into. It may steer our tactics a little bit. If I know I have flammable liquids that are burning, I may start with foam right away. If you can give us an idea of maybe where the fire is located, that will help us also with our tactics. If it's a large warehouse, if you can tell me it's way back in that far end and it's probably 300 or 400 feet down there, then I know right away I need to add more hose before I go and try to attack that fire. So just little things that can help us out. The last thing I want to make sure it's really important is we need to do the best we can to maintain accountability. When we pull up to a fire scene, the first thing we're going to ask is everybody out. And it's yes or no. It's not maybe. We need to know yes or no everybody's out, because that's going to steer our tactics. It's easy to say that, yep, we're going to have everybody out, but we need to make sure once everybody is out, they need to stay out. Once we have everybody out to that spot, we don't want them to go back in for cell phones. I can think of locally, a few years back, a restaurant smelled natural gas. They got everybody out. They called the fire department. Everyone was safe. Before the fire department got there, one person decided they forgot their cell phone, and they were heading back in when it blew. They were just had some cuts and bruises, nothing serious, thank goodness. They weren't back inside the building. But once everybody's out, make sure we stay out. If you're dealing with a place with civilians, obviously we can't control that, but with hotels and things like that, we want to try to make sure we do the best we can to alert those people and make sure that they are getting out of the building. There's a lot of complacency and people don't want to leave sometimes when those alarms go off. So do the best we can to maintain accountability. The last thing we're going to talk about is actually the process to use a fire extinguisher. When you go out through your day and we talk about if you're knowing the locations of your fire extinguishers, people get paid money to inspect them and they're safe. People get paid lots of money to come around and inspect them and make sure they're tagged and they're in good working condition. As you walk by them, just make sure that they look like they're in good shape. Make sure there's an intact seal on top. If that seal's broken, you need to take it out of service. If you work in a large warehouse where these are hanging, it could be pretty easy with a forklift to bump into it and damage it, and you wouldn't even notice it. So just make sure when you walk by them, they look like they're in good shape. The first thing you're going to do anytime you're going to fight a fire with a fire extinguisher is you're going to pull the pin. To pull that pin, you just give it a twist. We'll break that seal. So you'll pull the pin. You want to aim at the lowest visible flame. That doesn't necessarily mean the floor. What we don't want you to do is, for example, if you had a trash can fire on a wall, it's going to creep up the wall and want to go vertical. We don't want you to start up high and extinguish it and work your way down. We want to start at the lowest visible flame. The heat will kind of dictate how far back you're going to start. Generally speaking, inside you're going to be 10 to 12 feet back. We always want to start back away from the fire. We never want to walk up onto a fire and squeeze the trigger. It's going to give you a blast of air. It's going to make your small fire bigger, and it's going to blow all that ash and soot right back up into your face, and we don't want that. So you'll start about 8 to 10 feet back, squeeze the trigger, aim at the lowest visible flame, sweep side to side, and then walk forward. You'll pull the pin, aim at the lowest visible flame, squeeze the trigger, sweep side to side, and walk forward until the fire is extinguished. In a real fire scenario, anytime you pull that pin, we want you to empty that extinguisher out. It's a powder, basically it's a powder that's designed to kind of smother out the fire. If you just give it a quick squirt, sometimes that'll work and it'll put that fire out. If you set your extinguisher down and turn around and walk away, a couple things could happen. That powder can settle, it could displace, and you might get some air back in there. If you work in a larger facility, you could have lots of air current. They could kick on the HVAC system and create some air current, and that powder can settle and displace. If you pull the pin and squeeze the trigger, empty the full thing out. Next part of our phase, we're going to go outside, and we're actually going to use our burn prop, and we're going to demonstrate with some live fire how to use our extinguishers. The second part of our presentation about fire safety and extinguisher classes, we're going to actually have some hands-on, and we're going to put some fire out for you with one of our props. And we'll also show you a couple of extinguishers that you might run into. For example, if you work in a commercial kitchen area where you're cooking and using high temperature cooking oils, you might have a K extinguisher. We don't have one with us today. We're not going to discharge one, but we'll have a picture we'll show. Your K extinguishers are those silver canisters. They're used for high temp cooking oils. If, for example, you work in an area with electronic equipment, maybe computers that might be sensitive to powders and things that the dry chems put out, you're probably going to run into a CO extinguisher, and that's one of these right here. Your CO extinguishers are going to have this horn on the end of it. They may not all be quite this big, but the CO extinguishers are going to have a horn on the end of it, and we'll demonstrate one of these today. One of the things you want to make sure you're aware of when using these CO extinguishers, don't grab that horn to use it. It'll get real cold. You have a chance of getting frostbite. There'll always be a handle, so you're going to use that handle to aim your extinguishing agent. Most of what you're going to see nowadays are multi-purpose dry chem extinguishers. They look like this. They're going to have a smaller little spout to aim at extinguisher. Essentially, again, it's a powder that's going to be designed somewhat to basically smother the fire out, and these are what your dry chem extinguishers are going to look like. So here's the two we're going to discharge today. Now we're going to go over to our prop, and we're actually going to have some live fire, and we'll put fire out. All right, the first extinguisher we're going to demonstrate is our CO2 extinguisher. So remember, the first thing you're going to do is pull the pin, you give it a quick twist, and that'll break that seal on there. Let's go ahead and light the fire up. Aim at the lowest visible flame. And walk forward. The next extinguisher we're going to use is our dry chem extinguisher. Same rules apply. Give it a quick twist, pull the pin, aim at the lowest visible flame. Let's fire it up. And walk forward. Well, that's the end of our class. So hopefully you guys picked up some ideas and learned a little bit about some fire safety and using our fire extinguishers. So remember, if you're a Council Bluffs business and you'd like us to provide these classes for you, just contact our fire marshal's office and we can come out and put the classes on for you. Council Bluffs Fire Department, proud to serve the citizens of Council Bluffs. Thank you very much.